So with February being a shorter month than usual, we get the monthly reward card revealed a little bit early, and this month we are going to earn Steam Constructor for our monthly reward card. Steam Constructor is a 2-cost neutral creature that's a 2/2, but it has a very interesting summon effect. It says, summon if you have a neutral card in your hand, then summon a 1/1 Reconstructed Spider. Now, both the Steam Constructor and the Reconstructed Spider are both Dwemer, so if you are playing a Dwemer deck, this is likely an auto-include. It's going to be very fine there. Similarly, even if you're not playing a Dwemer deck, but you are playing something to grind the Centurion title, this is going to be an auto-include in that as well. But outside of those like kind of theme-ish decks, where do you think this would see play? Well, it's good enough to actually see some play in Constructed. It stands out to me potentially in decks that run some neutrals, and in decks that like summon effects, decks that like strong early game, because this is a 3/3 worth of stats for a 2-cost, which is pretty fantastic. So things like Voice of Balance decks immediately jump out. Voice of Balance is already a neutral card. If you are playing like the Sorcerer version that also runs Hulking Fabricant, then this card is a fantastic card there as well. This deck is actually really good for Steam Constructor as well, because that deck runs like Crown Quartermaster, which will put the dagger into your hand. Dagger is a neutral, and that will count towards the trigger. So if you're looking for like strong opening plays, the ability to go, you know, turn 1 Crown Quartermaster into a turn 2 Steam Constructor with the trigger, that seems pretty strong. The other decks that I want to talk about are like Altar decks, right? So Altar of Despair is a neutral card. It's certainly, you know, later in the game when you're going to play it, so if you have it, it's probably in your hand. Steam Constructor gives you 2 bodies and a decent amount of stats early on if you've got the Altar in your hand when you play it, and Altar decks like cards with summon effects, and Altar decks like cards that will leave bodies behind, because in order to keep the charges on your Altar churning up, you need bodies on the board, preferably like sacrificial ones. So good examples of like, you know, classic Altar of Despair style cards would be things like Wardcrafter. Wardcrafter comes into play, gives you value, you usually put the ward on something else, and then after that the Wardcrafter's sacrificial lamb. Same thing with like Shrieking Harpy, Blackhand Messenger, because, you know, the summon is the real benefit there. Things like that, right? So this certainly, I think, fits the bill in that, you know, it comes into play, it's cheap, likely going to get the trigger, gives you multiple bodies. You can use the 2/2 to maybe trade into something to establish some board position, pop the Altar on your 1/1 and not feel bad about it. So yeah, I think those are potential homes for it. I don't think you're going to necessarily see a ton of it on the ladder. You may on the, like all months, right? You may on the first couple of days as people kind of test it. But I don't think it's, you know, so good that you're just going to see like an influx of it. It's not going to be Sower of Revenge, if you will. But I do think it is good enough to warrant being included in certain decks, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see this card in those decks. But those decks aren't super popular right now anyway. That doesn't mean they're not good. Like, I love Altar Assassin. I've been playing it a lot this month. I think it's better than people give it credit for. Ian Bits, another content creator, has been playing a lot of the Voice of Balance Sorcerer. You know, whether or not this is good enough to fit in there, who knows? But if I did see it in there, like, I wouldn't blink. It's, you know, it's a 3/3 worth of stats for 2. That's pretty good. So, yeah. I think it's good. I think that it's obviously the kind of card that you have to have a little bit of either build around, or likely you were already doing something else and it just naturally falls into your game plan. Yeah. Dwemer decks are going to love it. Centurion decks are going to love it. A couple of other constructed decks will probably see some value. Let me know what you think. Are you excited to test this out? Is there a cool combo or interaction that I had forgot about? Do you think it's just junk? Do you think that a 2/2 and a 1/1 for 2 are still not good enough? Do you think that it will be too hard to trigger? Because even, you know, as I think about the triggering stuff, even stuff like Crushing Blow, right? Like if you run a deck that runs Crushing Blow, you're going to likely play this on curve before you would play the Crushing Blow, so that still triggers it. I can think of a lot of ways that you could trigger this pretty easily. Mundus Stone, you know, not that Support Mage wants to run it, but like decks that are running Gold Brands and Wabajaks and things like that, again, this would get triggers for. So let me know how you would use it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.